Hello everyone, welcome back again. Sunday morning, it's a little bit different this week. Unfortunately, I've only got 2 or 3 hours to put into FTR3 this week, just with work and other commitments. So I thought to maximise it and keep you updated, I'll just record as I go, and anything that I find I'll share with you. So it'll be a little bit of a mixed up video this week, but hopefully you find it interesting and it'll keep you updated. So we're just starting to pull the front end out of FTR3. So we're talking uprights, control arms, shock absorbers, brakes, it's all got to come out. One thing I just wanted to quickly show you, because there's a point of difference between this car and the Super Cheap Auto Falcon. You may recall in an earlier video I did on the Ellery car, the Super Cheap car, it had a system on it where you can remove the brake pads quite easily at the front. This is an AP Racing caliper, as you can see. It's got the quick release system for the brakes on it, so at race meetings where you've got to change the pads in a hurry, you can see here, if I pull that out, it's really hard to do this one-handed, so bear with me. It's just got that quick release lever there, that pops out of there, pop that out of the way. Now you normally squeeze the pistons back in the caliper and your brake pads come out. Throw your brake pads back in, lock that back over, push that lever over, and away you go. Now you may look at that and go, geez, I wouldn't want that to go wrong at 300k an hour. It kind of can't, because the wheel, when the wheel goes on, the rim sits just here, so even if that does work its way up, yeah, it really can't go wrong. So now they're both an AP Racing caliper, but the Super Cheap car has a quick release latch on the back of it. Now that's built into it so you can change the brake pads easily. So you release the latch, push the pistons back, new pads go in, and away you go. So that's designed for Bathurst and Sandown and tracks like that in the Enduros. FTR3, as you see it here, it's still an AP Racing caliper, but it's set up for more of a sprint round. So if we have a look in here, that latch is completely gone, and it's got this big brace that's bolted in between the two ends of the caliper. It's an AP Racing component, as you can see. Now, I'm not an expert on this, but how this has been explained to me is by having this mounted, like bolted really solid, it's less likely to create any flex in the caliper. So by having that latch and all that, there's I guess when the braking pressure clamps, it can push the caliper outwards with flex. This here being bolted solid, the massive clamping force that's coming in through the hydraulic pressure, the caliper's less likely to want to spring out. Having this here bolted solid, it holds it as one good solid piece. So for sprint rounds and the like, where you don't need to change your brake pads in a hurry, it's a far better system to have. So around the passenger side of the car now, I've got the calipers off, and while we're waiting for the fluid to drain, I thought I'd just quickly show you the front brake cooling, because there's been a lot of time put into this as well when they built it. So you can see here, you've got your front ducting, so that air goes in through your front splitter, you're down in there, and it runs round on the inside of the front wheels, and then to this ducting section here. So this has to be completely flexible, because as the steering turns, it has to contract and expand with the upright. So that is got I guess a coil spring through it, and it allows it to be flexible. And then you've got this fully fabricated piece here which sits on the back of the upright, and that drags all the air from the front and it distributes it through the rotor to get as much heat out of there as you can. You can see here just how tight they've got it around there to make sure that it doesn't waste a skerrick of air. Now if we come around the other side of the car, I've already got the rotor removed, and you can see there just how much work's gone into it. So I'll grab the torch. You can see there, that's a look from behind the rotor, how it's all laid out. So exactly the same layout on this side of the car, and you can see down in there, there's a lot of fabrication work that's gone in to, I guess, make it connect to the upright, but it all works completely independently of it. You can see in there it's all urethaned on in part to make sure it doesn't leak anywhere. So the upright on the car itself is also fabricated, so there would have been a lot of work going to this back in the day to make it all neat and tidy. So a massive volume of air comes out of there, and that pumps it in the back of the rotor. So as air comes in here, there's fins in the rotor, as you can see, so the air pulls through and disperses the heat out and out of the way. Now just getting back quickly to the uprights, Really neat little bit of engineering again. There's fail points built in at the top and the bottom, so if you do have an accident, hopefully you can save the upright. That section there is where your caliper bolts to. But one thing that's really interesting, if you have a look at where the steering arm goes onto the upright, that bolt there is tiny. Now, if you look back at the Ellery car, it had a massive bolt in it, and you look at that and think, there's no way that can take that amount of load, but all it's doing is just holding the rose joint in place. All the load is going through that pin there and that boss. So again, if you hit something and you break a steering joint, hopefully it just breaks this piece here. It doesn't, or this piece here, it doesn't damage the whole upright, which is where all the engineering is. So we've got the uprights out of the car. Now it turned out to be a little bit bigger job than I'd hoped. What should have been nice and simple, just a couple of bolts and the steering arm and the upright coming out, it was actually stuck on both sides of the car. And I had to disassemble the upright by taking these bottom sections out, leaving that in the bottom ball joint and sliding the pin through the center of it. Now what's caused it to be stuck, if we come over to the bench, this is one of the uprights. You can see the pins are all badly rusted. So I'd say the last time the car's been out, which was many years ago, it's had obviously a wet race, or it's been exposed to some moisture, and it's just been sweating while the car's been in storage. You can see the same thing behind the brake disc there. So it's certainly a good thing that we're pulling everything apart and cleaning everything up as we go. As you can see, everything's filthy as well. I mean, the car presents exceptionally well, and it's been very well looked after. It's just you can't see a lot of this stuff until you get in there. So you can certainly understand why the level 1 teams pull them apart after every race meeting. So just to have a quick look on the bench and all the parts we've taken off the car. So obviously we've got the brake calipers, the brake rotors, it's all sitting here to be serviced up. Now, just wanted to quickly show you on the upright, the design philosophy behind it obviously is to reduce costs and if you do have an accident, make the repair as easy as you can. So, you know, if you do get a hit and you break the bottom suspension, hopefully it's just a matter of this pin's been broken out of the upright. So you screw that out of there, replace the pin, and away you go. There's one on the top as well. Steering joints, if you have a problem with the steering, again, hopefully you're replacing just this section, you're not replacing the whole upright. And just to quickly cover off what I mentioned earlier, this is your bottom steering joint, where your rose joint goes on for your steering arm. You can see there how big that whole section actually is. So it's a little bit deceiving. This tiny little bolt looks like it's got a lot of load going through it, but once it slides onto that rose joint, there's really no load going through it at all. The side-to-side movement is all tolerated by this or carried by this, and all this little bolt does is hold the rose joint in place. So it's quite a cool little system when you stop and have a good look at it. As far as the rest of the upright goes, if you have a look at all the welds and shaped metal and everything, like there would have been just so much time going to this, it's ridiculous. I'd hate to think what these cost to make back when the cars were running. A lot of them now are all CNC machine, but there's a lot of fabrication work and from skilled tradesmen that's gone into this, and it's really impressive when you can see one in real life. So with the front suspension removed, we've decided to start taking some of the ducting off the front so we can start getting this engine out. Now, obviously the radiator duct's been removed. The rest of the ducting that feeds the airbox that sits just under the rad support, that's all been removed, and also the brake ducts as well. Now, the other thing we've taken out is the front bar mount. Now, it's a bit of a complex issue, this one, because there's photos from 2002 that suggest this car ran a similar system. And then if you look back earlier, say 2000 Bathurst, it looks like it was different again. So we're not too sure whether this is going to be reused or not yet, whether we need to put an updated version or just come up with something entirely different and recreate what was in those chassis rails in 2000. As far as the rest of the ducting goes, the radiator ducting and all the airbox ducting, we'll have to get all that redone. So none of this will get used again at this stage. So the next step from here is to get the engine out of the car. Now obviously I want to try and do that I can do the whole lot in one day. I don't want to half start it now given I'm a bit time limited. So we'll start getting everything disconnected and then move forward from there. So radiator will come out and then the exhaust and everything else. So we'll obviously share that with you in a separate video as it happens. And then once the engine's out, we'll then start stripping the inside of the car, pretty well work our way to the back. So all we're left with is a bare chassis. So Thanks again for watching. We'll share it with you as it all happens, and hopefully we're another day closer to returning FTR3 to its former glory. Thanks again.